I'll never forget, like, my dad turned on a Caps Penguins game once when I was like 5, and I was instantly hooked. And like, it was my favorite sport. I played softball growing up. I played in college, and so I loved softball. But I always said if I didn't play that and I didn't want to play in college, I would have tried to play hockey because I was just instantly captivated and hooked with the sport.
Welcome into another great week, another great conversation here on Cousins Conversations, and I have Sara Holland here with me. She covered the entire Carolina Hurricanes run to a Stanley Cup in Raleigh. Sara, how are we doing though? Because I know you were traveling a lot.
I'm tired, but I think I'm still kind of running off that high of getting to cover Stanley Cup championship and a parade. My feet are tired as well, but no, it's been so wonderful, something that I'll never forget.
For sure, and I was looking at the parade, so a lot of tarps off for the boys there. I saw a lot of shirts off from people. What's the environment there now that Stanley Cup's in Raleigh?
Yeah, it's making its way all over the place, downtown, in our North Hills area. It's going to a bunch of bars, clubs, and people are just loving it. I mean, it's been 20 years since it's been here in Raleigh. And, the Canes fans are known, Lenovo Center is known as the loudest house in the NHL, and for good reason, because these fans showed out. It was 180,000 people, is the most updated count for how many people were in downtown Raleigh. And I mean, hey, that like downtown Raleigh's not built for that many people, but they made it work so well. And I mean, it's just been, I feel like this summer is going to be the celebration of the Stanley Cup, and it's going to be a really, really fun summer. And a lot of the guys are they stay in Raleigh throughout the offseason because they just love it here. And so I think it's going to be a really fun summer. I think we're going to see the Stanley Cup in a lot of places.
When I was watching the Stanley Cup, they were talking about how the Lenovo Center is the only arena in the NHL where the away team has to go across the ice to the bench to their locker room. How does that just add to the intensity of everything in the Lenovo Center?
Yeah, I mean, it's you got to obviously skate across, and that's more time on the ice that you have to deal with the fans heckling you. So, yeah, they kind of have to deal with that. It's interesting the way the Lenovo Center's going through a lot of renovations right now. I'm not sure if their plans are to always keep the away side on, the opposite side of the bench, but it's going through a ton of renovations. So, it's kind of fun though. Like, I think the fans kind of play into it a little bit more, having to see that. But it's, for the coaches and the training staff and equipment staff, they all have to walk obviously across the ice. So that must be a little bit tiring, having to like walk across. I'm sure they're used to it by now, but yeah, that's definitely kind of fun to watch how the fans sort of treat each away team.
I love how in the NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes are the only team in Raleigh. So does the fan base, the Caniacs, as they're called, how do they just embrace this team and now elevate it now that they've won the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, I mean, Taylor Hall, I talked with him and he said, like, I love being the only pro sport in Raleigh. And obviously there's been a big push to bring the MLB to Raleigh, which I would love for that to happen one day. But it's such a special environment because obviously when you think of the Triangle area, you think of how much passion there is for college sports with NC State, with Duke, with UNC. So when you have a professional sports, this is what we always say, a pro sports team where this is the only time that Duke, Carolina, NC State, ECU, Wake Forest fans are all cheering for the same team, right? Because they're usually
Yeah.
it's such a great atmosphere with college sports, but obviously, UNC and Duke fans don't get along. NC State and UNC, no one gets along when it comes to their college sports. But when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes, everyone is able to kind of come together. And that's where you get some of the most passionate fans in college sports. But now they're all behind the same team. And so you're kind of bringing the best of the best together. And it's great. You just see the way that the city sort of embraces the Canes. And, a big thing is like they say like hockey doesn't work in the South, right? Hockey's not going to work in North Carolina. But I've done so many stories with the junior Canes, and hockey is growing so much for the youth here in this sport because of the Carolina Hurricanes and what they're doing. And I think it's great to see, they have programs where it's all girls starting at 5 years old. I grew up in the DC area. I never had anything like that. And I would have loved to have been able to play hockey growing up. and you're only in a girls program. That's really only stuff that you might see up north. And the fact that they have that for girls as young as 5 to be on an only girls program with the, junior Canes is awesome to see. So the way that hockey has grown because of this organization in this state is so special. And it's so great to see the way that fans embrace it and the way that young kids want to actually play the sport now.
That's really cool to see, and you want to see that from a team kind of grow the sport. I think that's what the NHL wants as well. So you're seeing that now with the Canes, which is cool. But the one name that we learned in the Stanley Cup, if you didn't already know who it was, Brandon Bussi. All right, so he comes in game 3 of the Stanley Cup, and then he's just unstoppable. He's not even barely let any goals in net. So how is he able to just kind of come in and lock things down? What did you see from him?
I mean, if you know Brandon Bussi like we do, we see the ins and outs of morning skate and practice every day. When he was not playing and it was Freddie Andersen in net, Brandon Bussi was not taking things lightly, right? He was having his players go twice as hard in practice and in morning skate because he knew that any chance could come, any moment could come. And if you know Freddie Andersen and his track record, he, sometimes can taper off a little bit, and he ended up getting injured. But he was able to take the Canes to the Stanley Cup final. And so for Bussi to be able to come in when the stakes are the highest and having not played since April 14th when he first got in, and I mean, it's an amazing story, right? And we had covered, when Bussi got brought in off waivers, he's been with 3 different AHL organizations, if I'm remembering correctly. And the regular season that he had, it's an amazing story, right? An older rookie, but you're always kind of rooting for the underdog. And I think that's what Bussi was at the beginning of his career. And I think it was just such a perfect ending to at least this season. We obviously know that he's going to stay with the Canes, but a perfect ending to this season. And you see Freddie Andersen get those first 2 series and the amazing, shutouts that he was able to contribute. And that ultimately was the reason why the Canes swept the first 2 rounds. And then for Bussi to step in, it's been awesome to see, for the Canes and for their goaltending to have been really solid for them in this postseason run.
It was awesome to see too. Like Bussi's family was there, and his dad was getting emotional when they won. And so, what was Bussi's journey to get there? Because I know you said 3 different AHL teams, and so why did the Canes believe in him? What did they see?
I mean, so they brought him in. They brought him off waivers at the beginning of the season. I believe he's with the Florida Panthers organization before he was with. I can't remember if I'm remembering who he's with before. It's been so many things I'm trying to jumble in my head, but so, they brought him in at the beginning of the season, kind of this underdog goalie. You're not really sure where their goalie tandem is with Freddie, with Pyotr Tkachuk, and then obviously with Bussi. And then, throughout the regular season, he, started getting hot, and it was like, wow, this is an insane storyline for this young, he's a rookie, but he's an older rookie. I think he's 27. So it was amazing to see that. And then, you always kind of saw the impact that his family had on him. I talked with his fiance multiple times, and she's great. And she was, with him from the start at Western Michigan, I believe is where they met. So, I think it was just kind of one of those things I remember in January. Bussi was just red hot, right? Like you just couldn't get by him, and then kind of tapered off as the regular season ended. And that's ultimately why Rod kind of gave the start to Freddie Andersen to start the playoffs. Because of the way that Bussi was a little shaky to end the season. But I think that rest might have helped him out a little bit. But definitely a long path.
Did we ever find out, was it an injury with Freddie? Because I know Brind'Amour kept saying, like, we're just giving him rest. We're just giving him rest. We don't want to dress him.
Yeah, it wasn't. He told us it was an injury. I'm trying to remember if it was. I think it was a knee, but he told us at the end when we were on the ice. My sports director actually talked with him because I was with other guys, and he said in the interview that Freddie said that he thinks he got hurt in game 2. That's when it happened, and then game 3 was trying to play through it. That second period where the Vegas Golden Knights scored 4 on them is when he was taken out. Heading into the third. So it was an injury.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how cool was that moment then when he's the second player to get the Stanley Cup from Jordan Staal?
I did not expect it. I was watching I was in Vegas for game 6, and I was obviously going live at the moment. So I had to kind of watch on the monitor, and I love to see the way that they hand them off. And I was telling people, like, there's always it means stuff to who hands off the Stanley Cup in the order in which they go, and it was really special to see that Freddie got it. And I think the guys know, like, we might have not been here if Freddie hadn't played the way he did throughout the first 2 series. So it was great to see him get recognition, even though he wasn't able to fully complete playing throughout game 6. But yeah, that was a special moment for sure.
And then the Canes started out with two sweeps in their first 2 series. So I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, this team is going to win the Stanley Cup. And I got some heat for that because at that point, like, people were so high on the Avs to get there. And then the Knights sweep them. So then it's like, okay, but what did you see from the Hurricanes, or when did you know from the Hurricanes that this might be the season for them?
Honestly, it might have just been that first series against Ottawa. Like, I think Ottawa is a great team, and obviously we know that Brady Tkachuk's going to join his brother down in Florida. But
Wow.
yeah, which is crazy. We'll have to talk about that. But like, so they have a talented team. They're tough defensively to play against, and the way that they kind of handled them. And I always said, like, the team that they face in the second round, whether it was the Penguins at the time or the Flyers, will be easier than trying to beat Ottawa. So when they handled Ottawa in 4 games, and then you go and do it against the Flyers as well, I kind of knew, even in the regular season, when they, there were just so many moments that I was like, this team is special. And I think in years past, they didn't have the Nick Ehlers, the physicality that they needed to beat a team like Florida. And I think they addressed those in the offseason. General manager Eric Tulsky, I think, did a great job of that. And then you just see the way that guys like Logan Stankoven and Taylor Hall played, that second line was the anchor of the team and the offense throughout the entire postseason, in ways where, the first line couldn't really get things going. The second line was able to kind of counteract that. So yeah, I think I kind of knew. Maybe my subconscious was telling me from the beginning, like, this team is special, from the very start of the season. And, it was great to see them get rewarded for everything.
And you're talking about the physicality of the team, but it was really like the defense that got this done. I saw it was 2 shots in 30 minutes in that last game that the Hurricanes allowed against the Knights. So what was it about this defense that got it done? Because, I mean, we know what Jordan Staal did with the 5 goals in the 6 games, but the defense was what really got it done for them.
I mean, you think about who's on their defense, right? You got Jacob Slavin, a gold medal winner, and he's always shut down. He had 1 bad game against Montreal. I think it was game 1 against game 1 against Montreal when the Canes lost that game. And Rod Brind'Amour even said, like, I've never seen Jacob play that way. So the fact that he was able to bounce back in game 2 and ultimately, played pretty much the style that we expect to see from Jacob Slavin. But, not only him, when you have guys like Sean Walker, Jalen Chatfield, just Alex Nikishin, all those guys kind of culminating for Kendra Miller, right? I can't forget any of them. Like, they're all awesome. And Shane Gostisbehere was kind of that, key player on the power play, was able to handle things. But yeah, when you have a defense that isn't allowing teams to get a shot on net, we saw that especially during Montreal in that series. It's going to be tough to beat them.
Jordan Staal, 37 years old. What was he able to find in this playoffs to score the way he did and do the things he did to get the MVP at the end?
I mean, when your captain shows up in the biggest moments, that's the most important thing, right? And so we talked about it and how awesome it was to see Jordan Staal have this moment where, really shows up on the stat sheet in the final round, because his line oftentimes throughout the regular season was tasked with taking care of the top guys, that come in and shutting them down. And so he maybe doesn't have room to show up and get on all the stat sheets. But when you have Nick Ehlers on your line, it's suddenly now you got some talent to play with. And so for Jordan Staal to kind of be that anchor, in the front of the net, he's a big body, and it's great to see, and it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the team when your captain, does it. And to be 37 years old, I mean, I was saying 37 years young, looks like he's got 5 more years left in him, and he's like, I don't want to stop playing. So it's always nice to see your captain show up in the biggest moments, especially when you need a guy like him.
Rod Brind'Amour, he won as a player with the Canes, now as a coach. So how is he viewed now? Because that you don't see that. You don't usually see that.
Yeah, I mean, Rod loves the state of North Carolina, and he lives and breathes this organization. Like, he loves the Carolina Hurricanes organization. And when you have a coach like that, I think it makes it special for players that want to come here because they see a coach that embraces sort of a different style of hockey, and then also just, the way that his attitude is. And Rod means a lot to this city, and you can see it. I watched the '06 parade and how much people. I went back in our archives and how much people obviously loved having Rod as the captain back then, and then the fact that he stayed with the organization and got them out of those really tough days when there's 5,000 people in the arena and they're losing, and it's maybe a question of, are they going to stay here? And he completely flips the script and turns around the organization. It's kind of a full circle moment for him to get this moment to win as a head coach. And they call him Rod the Bod because he is ripped, and he has this he kind of sets the standard for how this team should be built physically, and he keeps them in shape all season long.
I can see him in the weight room just out benching guys possibly.
Oh, yeah, no, he probably does.
And yeah, you saw that too when he took his shirt off. I saw.
Yeah. Yeah, they love to get all the tarps off, including coach.
with Rod, because he was pretty transparent through the whole Stanley Cup playoffs, because sometimes coaches like to keep it under wraps, but he was very transparent about the Freddie Andersen situation, a lot of other things. So what do you think just makes him so open about those things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think because it's a little hard. Like when we were all trying to figure out stuff about Freddie, like he obviously is not going to tell you who's starting in net. Like that's just kind of something that coaches do. And I think he's trying to protect his, goaltender and player first, because that's like ultimately what what he's trying to do. But throughout the regular season, Rod's great with media. And I don't know if it's because maybe in some Canadian markets and up north, like they just have so much more media. But down here, obviously, we cover the Canes all the time, but we've also got other things, and we've got UNC and Duke and NC State. But the media here is great, and I think everyone respects each other. And so I think Rod gives us that respect in response, and that is what kind of makes the relationship with maybe him trusting us and us trusting him, and how that's able to kind of have a good dynamic.
And this was your first year.
Yeah, first year
down there. Okay, so what is this? Like you some good luck charm for them or something?
I know, right? It's going to be hard to beat this year because I started in August, and obviously hockey's my favorite sport to cover. I grew up a big hockey fan. And so it's going to be really hard to beat this year. But hey, maybe as long as I'm here, they'll keep winning the cup.
There you go. Yeah, but yeah, okay. So we want to talk about this. So now the two Tkachuk brothers are now with the Panthers. So Panthers on a little redemption tour now. Okay. So how does that change the division? How do you see this playing out?
I mean, so the Panthers last year kind of got hit with the injury bug, right? I think like some of their top guys missed a combined like 230 games or something like that. So when you have that many of your star players out, obviously things aren't going to go well. But I think for so long, like people said, if the Panthers were in this playoffs, the Canes wouldn't have won the cup. And I don't think that's true. I think, the Canes were able to address a lot of their needs in the offseason of becoming more physical and also bringing in some star power like Nikolai Ehlers to be able to get goals when it matters most, when maybe guys aren't, showing up. And so but for the Florida Panthers, they're not going to be easy to beat. When you have two Tkachuk brothers on the team, they're going to bring a sense of physicality. It's kind of a tough spot for Ottawa to be in, obviously, with what kind of the way that things played out there. But it's kind of an interesting dynamic to see the way that I know a lot of these U.S. hockey guys want to get back to playing with each other and how the NHL might handle that. But I can't wait for the first game against Carolina and Florida and kind of see the way that they go about things.
Get your popcorn ready for that matchup, because that's going to happen a couple of different times
right
throughout the year, being in the same division. But what did you see? You said you were a hockey fan. So what started your hockey fandom? What just gravitate towards the sport for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in the DC area. So having Alex Ovechkin kind of be that pillar of hockey for so long for my childhood was so cool. He really grew the sport, kind of like how the Canes are doing with hockey here. He helped grow the sport in Northern Virginia, and which is where I'm from. And so my dad, I'll never forget, like my dad turned on a Caps Penguins game once when I was like 5, and I was instantly hooked. And like it was my favorite sport. I played softball growing up. I played in college, and so I loved softball. But I always said if I didn't play that and I didn't want to play in college, I would have tried to play hockey because I was just instantly captivated and hooked with the sport. And I grew up a big Caps fan, and I got to see them win the cup in 2018. And I still say that that's one of the top moments of my life. Getting to watch them, getting to see OV win the cup, and then getting to go to the parade, that was awesome. But yeah, it was really just, I'll never forget just being a young girl and seeing the Caps play. And my dad and I kind of shared the love of hockey and that bond. And he would take me to practices because they had open practices to the public. And I would get to meet some of the guys, Braden Holtby, Mike Green. It was awesome. And then, yeah, they obviously got really good when I was in high school. And they were kind of always that contender. And then they finally made the cup and were able to beat Vegas. So it was that's kind of where it all started.
TJ Oshie, yeah, on that team as well.
TJ Oshie as well, yeah, he was great. I remember the day that he was traded to the Caps. I was going to Italy, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, they just got TJ Oshie. This is insane." So, yeah, so many great memories of getting to watch that team growing up, and they really started my love for hockey.
Okay, so you were a college athlete. So
Yes.
what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I played for 2 years and then COVID kind of hit, and it was just difficult because I knew I wanted to pursue my career in sports broadcasting. So trying to be a college athlete and kind of balance everything with the travel. With softball, you just travel so much because you got to go down. I went to the University at Buffalo. So being in the MAC and up north, like you just don't get to play as many games at home at the beginning of your season. You got to go down south. And so you're just traveling for so much of your spring. And that was kind of tough. And yeah, so I just decided to hang up my cleats after a little bit of time and, kind of pursue my career. But I ended up graduating early from college and got a job at my first station in Buffalo where I covered the Sabres and the Bills. And being right out of college, getting to cover teams like that was awesome and kind of a dream come true. And so I always say it, got me to where I am today.
That's awesome. Love that for you. Thank you for Lance Leipold, by the way, as a KU football fan.
Yeah, Lance, he was great.
Done great things for us, and as a Bears fan, Khalil Mack as well. So thank you for those two. Great.
Buffalo I'll take people. All the credit. All the credit.
Great Buffalo people. Yeah. So how is that giving you a different perspective then at being an athlete now covering sports?
Yeah, I think it kind of just allows me to remember that these people are just humans and, regular people. And I always got the question of like, how can you be around Josh Allen or Tage Thompson or now, Nikolai Ehlers and not be starstruck? And, as an athlete, you kind of just know like, hey, these people are human, and they're obviously insane at what they do. They're the best of the best, and that's why they're here. But I think that kind of respect, of just being another athlete and understanding how they go about things definitely helps.
So you've now worked in 2 pro markets. How have you been able to adapt to that? Because not everybody gets to get thrown into 2 big pro markets like that right away.
No, it's been a blessing. And when I started out in Buffalo, like the fact that I was covering, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and, the best of the best in the NFL, and then getting to cover the Sabres at the time, they were, still in their drought and they hadn't made the playoffs, but it was still, my dream to always cover an NHL team. It was really cool. And when I moved to North Carolina, it was hard to adjust at first because you go from covering 2 major sports teams in Buffalo to covering UNC, Duke, NC State, ECU, and then, oh, by the way, you got the Carolina Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. And so, and it's not just like those 3 colleges, but you also have to do like, it's basketball for each of the schools, it's football. And so it's, in some places baseball. And so it was a lot to kind of adjust to and to learn all the storylines and get myself acclimated. And when you have Bill Belichick as your, head coach at UNC and having to work with him, that's pretty cool. So, yeah, it was a lot to get. It's 2 very different markets, but I'm blessed. There are 2 great sports markets, and I'm blessed to have worked in both.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, but you are talking to Bill Belichick. So how is Bill Belichick as a college coach?
Interesting. The first year obviously didn't go the way that UNC was had hoped it went. After that TCU game, things kind of just spiraling down a hill. I'm interested to see the way that Bill kind of is able to regroup in year 2 and how they go about things. But Bill's Bill, right? Kind of what you expect from him in the NFL is what you get at the college level. And, he's not very animated during his press conferences, but he was very nice to me when I did talk to him. So, UNC has been great to work with, and I'm interested to kind of see the way that they rebound in year 2.
I'm a little biased towards Allen Fieldhouse as a KU alum, but Cameron Indoor, we won't debate it on here, but just tell me that environment and what that feels like for somebody who's watching a game there.
Yeah, I mean, my first time at Cameron, it was insane. Like, you can barely fit through the like tunnels on the bottom with. I have like my car with all my gear, and the media room is so small because it's just obviously not built for the stage of today's world and how much media covers them. And but it was great. Like, I remember my first time I shot a game there, and I can barely hear myself think. My ears are ringing. You got Duke fans like right behind you, like sometimes even like you can feel them like spinning almost. It's kind of gross, but like they're standing so close to you and they're hype college kids, right? So they're going to be crazy throughout the game. But I got to see my first UNC Duke game I actually covered was in Chapel Hill, and that was the Seth Trimble 3 that the buzzer beater. And that was crazy to witness too. So in my first year, I'm like, I've covered the craziness of the crazies, right? Like, it's a Stanley Cup obviously is kind of the best of the best that you're going to get, but it's been an awesome environment. And yeah, Cameron's great.
NBA draft's coming up too. Where do you think Cam Boozer goes?
Definitely. I think, we got him and Caleb Wilson in the top 5. I wish we got to see more of Caleb play throughout the season. Obviously the injuries just untimely, and I think UNC could have gotten a lot further had Caleb been in the lineup. And with Cam, you just know how talented he is. He's a talented basketball player. And so I don't have any worry that Cam's not going to be able to translate to the NBA. I've seen some people say that he's a great college player, but I don't know how his skill set's going to be able to translate to the NBA. And I have no worries about Cam and what he's able to do at that level. But yeah, I can see both of them going in the top 5.
As I know, a lot of Bulls fans want Caleb Wilson, so
yes,
I
I
think
know.
that would be a good.
I grew up a Wizards fan, so I'm like, hey, someone. I would love to see either one of them, but obviously you got Darren Peterson in the draft as well, and so many talented guys. Either of them could have been like a first round, like a number 1 pick if they had been in other drafts. This just happens to be really stacked, with talent this year. So yeah, but I have seen the Chicago kind of going a little bit crazy for Caleb.
We would love to see it because the Bulls haven't had a lottery pick in I don't even know how many years, but it's finally happening now. They want to be good again, so that I like to see that. But yeah, so with the grind that you just went through, okay, what would you like tell somebody, throughout a whole grind like this? Because people don't realize, like in local news, like you're doing live shots like crazy during the games, before the games, after the games. So what would be something that you tell people about just the grind and how to handle something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard because you don't really know what's happening, like you mentioned, when you're in it, and viewers might just see me on TV, but they don't know that. Yeah, like I had to cut the video that's in my live shot. I got here 4 or 5 hours before puck drop, and I've been standing in heels, and I'm gonna have to be here after the game. And we had to do a podcast earlier in the day, and so there's so much that goes into it. And so I would just say, give props to people that work in local news because they really truly do so much to make it work and to bring you the most updated stuff and to bring you excitement. And so yeah, I mean, it was so much work, but also I think very gratifying at the end to see all your hard work paid off for the team that actually gets to win the cup. And that doesn't always happen. You do the hard work and your team ends up losing, and that can be tough. But when you have a great team and great coworkers, I think it's pretty awesome. So, I've dreamed of having a role like this. I've always wanted to be a sports broadcaster, and so I'll never take it for granted.
What keeps you going?
Honestly, it's just my love for sports. Like the fact that I get to wake up and my job is to talk about hockey on TV or basketball or whatever it is. Baseball today, obviously UNC's in the Game 3 of the College World Series, and that against Oklahoma tonight. So that's going to be a great final round. Sorry, my dog here is being a little bit annoying, but so yeah, it's honestly just my love for sports and knowing like this is always what I've wanted to do. I get tired some days, but every day is different, and it makes it really fun. So yeah, those are kind of the things that kind of keep me going.
If you had advice for somebody from like the mental side of things, like just staying in the moment, staying in the grind, not letting negative effects come in, because we know there's a lot of no's in this industry, a lot of people that doubt you, things like that. So what's helped you mentally, and what can you tell people who are maybe struggling in that aspect of things?
Yeah, honestly, just like keep going. That's what I did when I first wanted to get a job. I'll never forget in college. Like I think I emailed like 800 people my reel. And in college, like the University of Buffalo was great. I loved my school, but it's not necessarily a journalism broadcasting school. So I had to make a lot of opportunities for myself. I went to high schools and club teams, and I was able to get on camera that way to establish a reel. And so I would just say like keep going if you want it, work hard, keep sending the emails. Don't be afraid to be rejected, because I've received no's all the time. And, look where I am today and what I've been able to accomplish. So it really is just, keep going, and something will happen. Make opportunities for yourself. And, you really can't go wrong.
Keep going, and you got to cover a Stanley Cup run like Sara. So there you go.
Exactly.
Sara, where can people follow you if they're seeing you for the first time or want to look back at all the Stanley Cup memories?
Yeah, my Instagram and Twitter, thankfully, are the same handle. So it's Sara with 2 A's, Saraa, and then my last name Holland. So pretty easy to find me on those. And yeah, I posted a lot about the Stanley Cup run. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
It's good. It's a good look. If you go back, a lot of great memories. Sara
Yeah.
was everywhere at the parade, everywhere like that. So it's a good follow. Make sure you go follow her. And if you're finding this episode for the first time, make sure you also hit that subscribe button as well. Like the episode, help the channel grow here. Sara, I appreciate you hanging out with me here on Cousins Conversations.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, have a great week, everybody.